I want to be completely honest with you right now, and I need you to listen without any filters, free from other people's opinions, phone alerts, background television, or the countless tiny distractions designed to pull your attention away from the present. What I have to share simply won't resonate if you are only partially paying attention, swiping through your feed, or physically sitting here while your incredibly active brain is already busy planning tomorrow's chores. I know you're already worrying about your daily tasks and analyzing that awkward chat from yesterday that is still bothering you. This message requires you to be fully here, right now. It asks for a level of focus you haven't offered to anything in quite a while, maybe even longer than you want to confess to yourself. That might seem a bit intense, but the truth is you've been dodging the present moment for a long time. You pack every moment of silence with sound, busy work, continuous scrolling, and literally anything that stops you from just sitting quietly and facing your inner feelings. You've noticed it, right? That strange feeling like you're living in two totally different worlds simultaneously. One world is the one everyone else looks at, where you arrive, get the job done, say all the correct things, and appear to manage life beautifully and capably. Then there's the second world. That's the secret life buried underneath, where something just feels deeply off. It's like putting on an outfit that you've completely outgrown. It's like wandering through your daily existence as if you don't even know yourself. You're an outsider who has memorized the schedule, but doesn't actually fit in anymore. You've been walking around feeling like you're constantly holding your breath. You keep anticipating a person or an event that you can't quite put your finger on. You see other people going about their business while you feel more detached, totally unseen, and as if you are just a spectator viewing a film about your life rather than actually participating in it. Let me tell you what's actually been going on behind the scenes that you might not have caught. Or maybe you did see it, but you just didn't want to admit it to yourself. Your inner circle has been responding to a shift within you that they can't clearly define. Chats that used to be incredibly easy now feel forced, almost like a hidden barrier has dropped down between you and them. You notice folks glancing at you with a hint of doubt, like they're attempting to solve the puzzle of who you are now or what exactly shifted. You might have sensed that people are retreating, building a massive gap that leaves you standing center stage in your own world, feeling entirely alone despite being in a crowded room. And the truly agonizing part is that you've started to buy into the story your mind tells you when everything gets quiet. That little voice suggests you're being left out because you are inherently flawed. It tries to convince you that friends are backing up because they've spotted something unlovable in your character. It argues that your loneliness is the ultimate evidence that you just aren't good enough. But what if that internal narrative is entirely wrong? What if this space you're experiencing isn't about being pushed away, but about getting you ready for what's next? Really let that sink in. What if the quietness around you isn't a void, but a safe haven? What if the exact loneliness that hurts so deeply is realistically the kindest gift you could receive at this moment? This isn't happening because you're supposed to be lonely, but because specific revelations can only be heard when all the external chatter is gone. Reflect on the moments you heard the most profound lessons you've ever learned. Did they happen in a noisy space full of folks shouting over each other? Did you get them while you were looking away, browsing your phone, and barely paying attention? Definitely not. The most transformative words hit you when you had breathing room, silence, and the true capacity to listen without a million different things fighting for your focus. That is exactly what has been occurring in your life, even if you hadn't put it together yet. You've walked into a chapter of life where things are being peeled back. It's a phase where the stuff that used to feel mandatory is just dropping away. Individuals who were once fixtures in your world are slowly fading out. Hobbies that used to take up your time don't mean anything anymore, and you've viewed all of this as a massive failure or evidence that your life is falling apart. But what if you aren't actually losing anything? What if this is just life clearing out the roadblocks so you can finally grasp what truly belongs to you? You simply can't pick up anything fresh if you're already holding too much. You can't tune into a new path when your mind is overflowing with what other people want from you. You can't embrace the real you if you're frantically fighting to keep the old you alive. Let's gently wade into some slightly tougher territory. There's a hidden motive behind why you've always been so accessible, so quick to help, and so incredibly dependable whenever someone else has a drama or a favor to ask. And honestly, that motive isn't quite as selfless as you'd prefer to believe. A piece of your heart has built its self-esteem and sense of purpose on being the go-to savior when everyone else's world crumbles. You feel a surge of pride when you act as the comforting friend, the ultimate problem solver, the person with all the right answers and the glue that holds it all together. It feels secretly deeply rewarding to wear that cape. Unfortunately, that exact rewarding feeling is what has locked you in a cage. If you're always busy fixing everyone else's lives, you never have to pause and ask yourself the hard questions. If you are constantly putting out fires for others, you can totally ignore the smoke in your own backyard. If your value comes solely from being useful, you never have to figure out that you matter even when you aren't doing favors for people. And here is the toughest pill to swallow, something that's been running in the background for years. A part of you is genuinely terrified of your own potential. This isn't about being bossy or manipulative, but rather the incredible strength that blossoms when you embrace who you really are, own your unique gifts, and tackle the one specific mission meant just for you. Because stepping into that kind of authenticity comes with a massive amount of accountability. It means you have to step into the spotlight, let yourself be totally visible, and stop hiding behind the curtains. It means you have to drop the excuses about your situation, your friendships, your busy schedule, or your favors to others as the reasons you feel stuck. It means you are ultimately responsible for making use of the talents you were born with, and taking on that level of responsibility is incredibly scary. I completely understand how frightening that is. It's infinitely more comfortable to just play it safe, act as the helpful sidekick, and stay tucked safely behind everyone else's dramas. It's so much simpler to use other people's chaos as a permanent justification for your own lack of progress. It feels safer to let their needs map out your schedule, so you never have to figure out your true calling. However, this current phase you are experiencing, this odd period of quietness, space, and being alone, is systematically breaking down every single excuse you've ever used. It's emptying the space of every voice that doesn't belong to a higher power, every chore that isn't truly yours, and every heavy bag you were never meant to carry. This is happening not to make you a loner, but because the universe has a message for you that requires total, unwavering focus. There is a deep spiritual dialogue that needs to occur, and it's impossible to have it when you're tuned into 100 different radio stations at once. There is a specific purpose waiting for you, but you can't accept it if your arms are full of everyone else's baggage. A completely upgraded version of you is trying to wake up, but it can't happen if you're fighting tooth and nail to keep an old, temporary identity alive. This leads us to the core issue you've been feeling so sharply, the heartbreak of friends drifting away, and the sense of feeling alien in your own skin aren't actually about you losing friends. These shifts are happening because your personal energy is evolving, and the people who aren't meant to come with you on the next chapter are just unconsciously reacting to that change. They aren't actively trying to abandon you. Rather, they are picking up on a new vibe they can't quite grasp, a feeling they don't get, and a new you that doesn't neatly fit into the little box they put you in. They back off, not because you're damaged, but because your growth is so profound that it unintentionally makes them uneasy. Really take a hard look at this. How many of your friendships only existed because you were constantly pouring into them? How many of your bonds survived solely because you were willing to put yourself last so they could be first? How many individuals stick around just for the favors you do, instead of genuinely loving you for you? And what naturally occurs to those connections when you refuse to play the servant anymore? What goes down when you start walking your own path rather than carrying their luggage? These are incredibly tough concepts to chew on. How do things shift when you begin setting boundaries and saying no, instead of automatically saying yes? What happens to the dynamic when you put your goals first, instead of dropping everything for someone else's drama? How do people react when you aren't a human toolkit for them anymore? Here is the one thought you've been running away from. What if the friends who walk away the moment you stop handing out favors were never actual friends in the first place? What if the bonds that break during your glow-up weren't loving connections at all, but just business deals? What if the space you're mourning is just the inevitable collapse of relationships built on shaky ground? These were friendships made for the version of you that tap-danced for approval. They are connections that simply aren't meant to survive the transition into the amazing person you're becoming today. It is legitimately hard to face those realities. You really need to grasp what this specific time in your life is all about. This period of being alone, losing the excess, and feeling stuck in limbo between your old self and your new self is not